we manipulate. And these are the 5 faces of manipulation. And this idea of the little tarot cards and the archetypes. An archetype is, like I said, like a persona or a face. This idea actually completely changed my entire presentation 2 nights ago at 10 p.m. I was just like, this is where I gotta go. So I hope you enjoy it. And the first one that we're going to be looking at, keeping understanding that these are tools. These are tools of our psychology. And so like a knife is a tool. And if I grab the knife by the blade end, I'm going to cut myself. I'm going to think that this is, a machine of destruction and harm. Or if I give somebody the handle, they get a handle of that tool. Well, now they can, cut bread and create survival. So what you have to look at is that each one of these archetypes or these faces of manipulation are going to have a shadow side and a sunny side or a light side to it. One that's more beneficial to others, one that inspires growth and expanse. The other side is the shadow side. This is the one that makes everybody contract and go in and escape and stay away from. And so understand that both of those concepts are within each one of these tools or these spaces. The more that you get to know these personas or tools, the more that you're actually going to be able to use them as articulations in your own life, in your own personality, and on the job site. And I'm going to show you how effective this can be as we move forward. So this is the first one, the destabilizer. Now, as I mentioned, all of us have these tools of manipulation inside of us, and you are using them. Now, hopefully, this is going to be the one that is obviously the negative one. This is the shadow side. And it's hard to say that we would want this person on our job at all for any reason at all. They're the ones who cause chaos. They're the ones who everything has to be about me. And they're going to be sometimes very charismatic. They'll be very emotional. I can't do that because I have a headache again today. Oh, I can't work with that person because of the conflicts we've had. They're nothing but trouble, right? And I got to say that I've worked out most of this destabilizer in me because I've been aware of it. Carl Jung, one of our most brilliant psychologists, he calls this shadow work. So in order to really get in front of these things and to use them at their fullest benefit, you've got to know the shadow side that exists in you. When I was a small child, I was introduced to this experiment, whatever you want to call it, the ACEs. And if you've been in one of my other talks, you know what the ACEs are. Who knows what ACEs are? Not what you play cards with. You want ACEs, you want those. The ACEs I'm talking about are adverse childhood experiences. So the CDC recognizes that if you have a certain amount of these adverse childhood experiences, like neglect, abuse, your parents are fighting, they're on drugs, all of these things, they've actually found statistically will lead to a life of early morbidity, lots of disease, cigarette smoking, depression, you name it. None of that fun stuff. So when I was growing up and I saw that, I had a lot of different adults, and a lot of them I didn't know, and some of them were abusive. And so I had to learn how to become the most brilliant liar and manipulator that the world has ever seen. I mean, my stuff was Oscar Award winning. If I had somebody that, I needed to protect my sister with, I could either puff myself up or early being able to identify what their psychology was just for survival. I was able to turn on the tears. I was really good. I could have been an actor because I was so good at that line. And then I met my biological father at 13. I started to explore Buddhism, Taoism, energy, all the metaphysical stuff. And I said, it really is not congruent with my keystone belief that life should be peaceful, easy. I believe in integrity, honesty, all that good stuff. So I moved away from using that archetype in a negative way. But understanding those things and knowing my shadow side made me absolutely valuable to all of my clients and to all of my family members because I was able to recognize the destabilizers. There's a lot of really good stories throughout history about people that have gone through and actually been the destabilizer of the destabilizer. People that will go in and debunk mediums and seances and charlatans. I one time actually helped my sister recover $600 because this person had them believing that there was a curse over the family. So they use their destabilizer skills and having this person believing that if they paid them money, that all their problems would go away. Really famous story back in the 20s. Who's heard of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle? That's Sherlock Holmes. How about Houdini? Houdini and Sherlock Holmes, well, Doyle, had one of the biggest newspaper beefs, probably the original one, before Biggie and Tupac. These guys were fighting about spirituality and theosophy, and Houdini was a champion. He was my hero because he would go through the entire nation, and because he knew how to manipulate, he was able to debunk all of the seances left and right. Until finally, Doyle's wife says, we're going to bring your mom in, and I'm going to prove to you that this spirituality and theosophy is a real thing. So he comes over, and Houdini basically flips up the table, and she writes down something in English. His mother was Hungarian, never spoke English. And a Christian cross. His mother was Jewish. So Houdini said, forget this is no good. But he was one of my heroes for that. Who's heard of Amazing Randy? If you haven't heard of Amazing Randy, look that guy up. He did the same thing. All of the people who, were bending spoons with their mind. This guy would bring them on his show and debunk them right there in front of national TV, in front of everybody. Very, very popular in the 70s and 80s. And so now I no longer am the destabilizer in its shadow form. Now I'm the champion of manipulation because I don't want people to be manipulated. So I can watch for that. I can check for that. I'm aware. I'm an expert in it. And so I can stop other people from being manipulated too. Think about that in your workforce and what kind of power you would have if you were able to recognize who these people are and then how to deal with them. We're going to talk about that at the end. Next is the shaper. The shaper is where negotiation sits. And we're going to talk in our 6 areas of influence later on about what we can do in way of negotiation and some of the skills that every leader has to know. If you do not know, good enough to be able to teach it to a third grader, Harvard's Getting to Yes, which is all about negotiation skills for business. And then you need to know about a guy named Chris Voss. He's the FBI's #1 negotiator. And I'm going to tell you how both of those work and when they don't work and how to use them best in a workplace environment. But you're going to know those because this shaper is a manipulator. That's what they're there to do. They're there to manipulate the situation so that way, hopefully, both sides will get what they want. As a matter of fact, Chris Voss's whole spin is never split the difference. He says, why would you compromise? A compromise is both people leaving, not getting what they wanted. So he talks about expanding and ways to do that, and we're going to look at that today too. So the shaper, are you the shaper? Where's the shaper in you? How well do you negotiate? I mean, I got to negotiate all the time. In addition to all this other fun work I do, I have taught every single age group from preschool on up to college. I was a college teacher for 17 years, and I taught business, ethics, all the massage, shiatsu, all the fun stuff. But then, when I retired from that, I went to go be a substitute teacher at my daughter's schools, and I tell you what, if you want to be a really effective grade school teacher, you need to know how to manipulate. No, those are not the Legos you were looking for. I mean, Jedi level, you got to get with these people. And you can get that way if you practice these skills and if you have the awareness and the accountability that we're going to talk about on how to take these in a really positive and healthy way that connects and expands. And so look for the shaper. Look for the shapers in your job because these are going to be the people that can take two people and get them together and figure things out. Employ them in areas where that's needed. With greater awareness, you have greater ability. The next one is the smoother. This is where people probably enjoy me manipulating them the most. Because massage therapy is manipulation. Part of what I do, because sometimes I have to get inside of the organs, we have this thing called visceral manipulation. It's where I'm actually going in between these tissues called fascia, in between the liver and the intestines. And for people that have things like IBS or they have hernias or other situations that maybe they can't breathe as well, freeing up this viscera with manipulation changes their lives. I work with technology that actually erases parts of your scars, the functional parts of your scars, up to 25% within one session, because it manipulates little electrons back and forth from the scar. So I love manipulating people, and people love me manipulating them, because I help them feel better, because I can help get rid of their pain when I manipulate them in those ways. So please keep in mind that, like all words, they're used based upon culture and society in a particular given time. But if we're really going to expand our way of thinking and rewire leadership, we have to be thinking about things completely differently. When I help people who have problems with insomnia, and they're like, I've done all the breathing routines, and I've done everything I can to clear your mind, and it's just not working. I said, well, what the biggest problem is that you're thinking, right? Well, why don't you just expand it out until you can't think anymore? And guess what? For the people that the kind of quiet breathing doesn't really help, I just say, just keep thinking, keep thinking, keep thinking, keep thinking. And then they fall asleep. So if we're going to rewire leadership, we have to think about things differently. We have to think about things completely, not just based upon our biases. We have to do our homework. We have to do our due diligence. We can't just rely upon what we know, because the world is in so many ways so much bigger and at the same time so much smaller. So this smoother is going to be the one that, before it handles problems, you guys, I hope maybe you have a soother in your office. Somebody who, when you get a bad report or you have a really bad meeting, they're going to be the one that's consoling everybody and getting everybody back to a ground level so that we can actually get some work done and people aren't freaking out and worried about what was in the meeting, am I going to get fired, all these other kind of things. So learn not only how to spot these smoothers, but invest in them. Go and have them learn how to do some of these techniques that I'm doing. They don't necessarily need to get a massage therapy license, but if they learn some of the yoga, some of the stretching, they can't charge for it unless they're licensed, but they can bring this into the workplace. You're going to benefit them, they're going to benefit their workplace, you're going to be the hero. Think about things differently. Smooth people out.